Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Briarios Kerensky, and today it's not about the review of a game, not the review of 2 games, but a review of 3 games. This video is all about the Excave trilogy, dungeon crawlers developed by Mechanic Arms for the 3DS. They are pretty similar to each other, and I'll jump between them as the review goes on. You'll be able to tell which game I'm showing from the logo on the lower right corner of the screen. This is the first game, simply named Excave. Excave Ikai no Madoushi-hen, the second, Ikai for short. Excave Unmei no Mugentou-hen, the third, Unmei for short. In fact, I've been sitting on the review for the second game for quite some time and held back because there wasn't much to tell about it. But now the trilogy is complete in Japan and the first game is available in the West, so better late than never. The goal of all 3 games is to beat all available dungeons. The games share the same combat mechanics, inventory system and graphical assets. Some ideas are abandoned or refined between games, and all share some basic strong and weak points. The first 2 games have the same main characters, a boy knight and an elf girl, each with his or her own base stats and capable of using certain equipment. The knight can wield the heaviest, slowest and most damaging weapons. The elf is more agile and favors dual blades, bows and rapiers. As you might expect, the knight has more defense and HPs, while the elf is faster and better at magic. Before entering a dungeon, you can visit the local shop to buy the usual array of healing items, sell unused loot and manage your inventory. Both characters have 1 main weapon slot, 1 secondary item slot, 3 accessory slots to boost stats, and a backpack to store items dropped by enemies or found in chests. In the first Excave, the secondary item slot is used for shields, magic and healing items, requiring a lot of back and forth between active and stored items, and it's very hard to swap them in the midst of the battle. From Ikai onward, the secondary slot is only for shields and spells. Healing items can be used directly from the inventory via the Y button, and this goes a long way in making the latter games much more enjoyable. Unfortunately, items can only be swapped via the touchscreen. The accuracy with fingers isn't the best, and keeping the stylus at the ready in one hand isn't particularly comfortable. Sometimes you'll have to stop to manage your backpack, neatly lining up items as the game likes to jump around consumables when one is used. Selecting an item is a simple press on the touchscreen, and this is reliable. Loot in the first 2 games is carried between dungeons and can be freely assigned to either character at the village. The village is also the only way to apprise unknown items and repair damaged weapons. Weapon wear in the first Excave is excessive, requiring multiple weapons just to get through a single dungeon, without visible status. Weapon wear in the other 2 games has been greatly reduced and the status is now visible, and there is even a larger backpack. Both elements are carried over to Unmei, but with a twist. In Unmei you have only 1 character, a well-endowed dark elf able to wield all weapon types, and all loot is sold every time you exit a dungeon. The dark elf starts every dungeon without any equipment, and the first room always contains a basic sword, a magic to apprise items, 1 anti-venom and 1 anti-paralysis potion. Dungeon structure is partially random as well, and the objective of Unmei is not just to conquer a dungeon, but also to get the highest possible amount of gold. The first 2 games slightly differ in how they handle dungeons. Excave has a central hub with closed doors that can be progressively open as you clear dungeon segments, while Ikai has a series of separate labyrinths, accessed via menu. Ikai and Unmei drop the colored door key mechanic of Excave, which not only makes micromanaging the inventory easier, but also the whole game less confusing, as way too many colors are similar to each other. Character movement speed in Excave is also the slowest, with the central hub being nothing more than a playable menu. Of the three games, the second has the best structure. Retreading around in Excave is simply boring, and the semi-random dungeons in Unmei mean a lot of corridors full of nothing and not that many environmental traps. There is also too much luck involved in Unmei. The most common spells dropped are the ones to identify objects and to guide you to the exit. Healing potions and weapons are uncommon, if not outright rare. Unlike Excave Ikai, specific enemies drop berries that will permanently boost your stats while in a dungeon, but due to the amount of enemies, you'll be longing for a health potion or a better weapon than their starting sword. Combat itself is not bad, with a decent selection of weapons, each with different swing speeds, reach, combo, spread, effect, and even sweet spots. I personally prefer the dual daggers. They don't have a long reach, but attack fast and in a wide angle, with the last combo attack striking all around your character. Bows are the hardest weapon to use, as the point of view isn't particularly wide, and you'll find yourself swarmed by enemies a lot of times. Certain weapons, like great axes and large swords, can affect your character's movement speed, and all weapons can have an elemental affinity with various effects. Ice can freeze enemies, while thunder can paralyze them. Shields stop your movement and are of limited usefulness. I've found it's always better to move around rather than passively absorbing blows. Variety isn't the strong suit of the three games. Enemies aren't particularly original. Blobs, spiders, dragons, wolves, orcs, lizardmen, and so on. Some enemies come in two sizes, and it's actually hilarious to see miniature wolves attacking you in rows with a couple of normal-sized wolves on the side. Few bad guys use ranged weapons, and everyone will converge on you as you enter their guard range. Crowd management is a must, like slowly and cautiously wandering in a new room, drawing only small groups of enemies at a time. Unmei is particularly guilty of teleporting the player right in the middle of a room full of enemies, leaving very few options to the poor Dark Elf. Bosses offer a better challenge, but their encounters are often hampered by how close the camera is, resulting in too many attacks coming from outside the screen. Such encounters are, however, a nice change of pace from the usual dungeoneering. Like many eShop titles, all Excave do not use 3D effect, and it's a shame, as the overall presentation could have used whatever boost it can. Graphics aren't particularly hot, and there is a lot of repetition right from the start. The playable characters received a decent amount of attention, but every element has choppy animations. The audio fares better, especially in Unmei, but that applies to the background music only. Sound effects share the same level of mediocrity as the graphics. All three games don't set the language barrier too high, the interface is straightforward and there's essentially no story. If I have to pick one game in this trilogy, I will go with Ikai no Madoushi-hen, the second. It improved the mechanics introduced in the first game, removing a lot of its downfalls, and among the three it's also the longest. Unmei no Mugentou-hen is a close runner-up, but if you don't like to play solely for high score, it's very short-lived. However, no game in the Excave trilogy really goes past being average. The groundwork is there, but developers never fully capitalized on it. I hope you have enjoyed this triple review and you'll stick around for more. Briareos Kerensky, over and out.